Story 1. The back door knob turned while I was holding a note that said, "This key is for the back," and I swear the metal moved under my hand like a slow breath. It started the Monday after Thanksgiving, the day everyone gets packages. My hallway was a stack of brown boxes with black tape and printed labels. Mine sat alone at my door. No return address, just my name in neat letters, and a smiley face where the zip code should be. I almost laughed. I brought it inside. I locked the front door. I set the box on the counter and texted my sister a photo. "Did you send something weird?" She wrote back, "Nope." "Don't open if it's sketch." I told myself it was from a friend. I cut the tape. On top was tissue paper. Under it, a key on a silver ring and a folded note. The key looked new. The note said in that same neat hand, "You dropped this." My lungs stuck. 2 weeks earlier, I had lost my spare front door key. I thought I left it at the gym. I checked the ring. It wasn't my old key. My old key had a blue cover. This one had no cover and a tiny stamp on the head that said B. I unfolded the rest of the note. On the second line it said, "This key is for the back." My place has a back door to a small patio. No one uses it but me. I do not even keep a mat there. I stared at the note so long, the words blurred. Then my phone buzzed. My doorbell app. Motion alert. Camera view. My front door from outside. The clip showed a sleeve, a gloved hand, a box being set down. The glove waved at the lens. The person walked away without showing a face. The timestamp said 2:57 p.m. It was 2:59 now. I locked the deadbolt again, even though I hadn't unlocked it. I set the new key next to the sink and told myself this was a dumb prank. I went to the back door to feel better. I checked the bolt. Locked. I checked the bar I slide into the runner at night. In place. I pressed my palm to the glass. Cold. While my hand was there, the phone buzzed again. Another motion alert. This time from the back camera. The one I never use and almost forget I installed. The clip made my eyes water. It was the inside of my back door. The camera was now inside the glass, looking at me from my own kitchen. I stumbled back and hit the counter. I scrolled the clip again. It was a still shot, soft, a little dark, like it was taken by a tiny lens pressed to the pane, level with my chest. My hand was on the glass. My eyes looked right into the camera. I tasted metal. I ran to the door and checked the frame. No cracks, no hole. I dropped to my knees and checked the weather strip. Nothing. My phone buzzed a third time. Not a motion alert. A text from an unknown number. It said, "Come to the back." I froze. My sister texted again. "Answer me," she wrote. I typed, "Weird package. Calling you in a bit," and lied because my hands shook. I picked up the new key from the counter. I don't know why. It felt heavy. On the key head, next to the B, a tiny dot I hadn't seen. I rubbed it with my thumb. It wasn't dirt. It was a hole. A perfect pinhole. A camera. I wanted to throw it in the sink. Instead, I slid it into my pocket because fear makes you keep the very thing you should drop. I went to the front door and turned the deadbolt to leave. The lock wouldn't turn. I tried again. The metal gave a millimeter and then stuck like someone held it from the other side. I stepped back and stared at the wood. I listened. I heard nothing. The fridge hummed like normal. My pulse was the loudest thing in the world. I ran to the bedroom for my shoes. My bed was fine, my closet fine, the air too still. On my nightstand, a second note sat where there had been nothing. I had been in the room 10 minutes earlier. The note said, "NAP was cute." A number under it. 317. I looked at my phone. 316. I went cold all the way to my teeth. I backed out of the room. The phone buzzed again. Back camera. I didn't watch it. I opened the patio door blinds a sliver and looked out. Snow dust like ash. Fence. Empty chair. No one. The blinds moved against my hand. Not wind. The door handle under my palm turned a hair. Not my hand. I yanked it back. The metal kept turning the one more notch like someone on the other side had committed to the twist. The bar in the runner held. The bolt held. The feeling of pressure on the door stayed like a quiet push. "Stop," I said to a door, to a person, to whatever. The pressure eased. My phone rang. My sister. I answered on speaker, voice not mine. "I'm coming over," I said. She said, "Did you call me a minute ago?" I said, "No." She said, "I got a voicemail. It's just you breathing and then you whisper, 'Come to the back.'" I felt sick. I told her to stay away and call the police. I stayed on the phone and walked to the front door again. I turned the deadbolt. It let go like a jaw, unclenching. I opened fast. The hall was empty. I stepped out and turned to pull the door shut. On the inside face of the door, at eye level, a clear sticker I had never seen. It showed a QR code and the words "Access Granted" in tiny print. I peeled it and dropped it like it was hot. The back door inside the kitchen made a soft tapping, slow and careful, like a single finger finding the rhythm of my nerves. Then it stopped. Then 3 taps, like a doorbell without a bell. Sirens were loud now. My sister said, "Do you hear them?" I said yes. I stood in the hall and watched my own open doorway and felt like if I blinked, the frame would show someone standing there. 2 officers came up the stairs fast. One went straight to the back. One stayed with me and asked for the package. On the counter, the box sat open. Empty. The tissue paper gone. The note gone. Only a piece of clear tape stuck to the cardboard with one brown hair caught under it that was not mine. They checked the doors. No marks. No scratches. They checked the cams. My clips had vanished. "Cloud delay," one said, like he had said it before. He looked at the back door and said, "You keep this bar in every night?" I said yes. He nodded. He looked under the runner and at the screws in the frame. "These are new," he said. "Someone's paid attention here." I told him about the key. I pulled it from my pocket. He turned it in his hand, squinted at the pinhole. He put it in a bag. "We'll have someone look," he said. He handed me a paper with a case number. He told me to stay with someone tonight. My sister was waiting downstairs. I left with her and didn't look back at the back door. At her place, I set my phone face down. It buzzed once with a number I didn't know. I let it ring. Voicemail. I pressed play because I am weak. My own voice said, soft and small, "Come to the back." Under it, a slow metal turn, a calm breath, a click like a bar lifting out of a runner. I ended the message and smashed delete and then deleted the deleted thing. The next day I changed both locks. I had the back bar replaced with a plate and new screws sunk deep into studs. I moved a chair under every knob like a child again. 2 mornings later, a padded envelope came in my mailbox. No sender. Inside was my old front door key with the blue cover I had lost. It was cold as ice. Taped to it was a clear sticker with a QR code and 2 words under it. "See you." Story 2. The VHS tape clicked and showed me walking into the unit 5 minutes before I actually did. Same coat, same bag, same dumb look, and then I heard steps in the row outside and the light under the door went dark like someone stood right there. It started on Cyber Monday when the storage place ran a deal. First month cheap. I clicked yes because my apartment was a maze of the boxes after the holiday. The manager gave me a code and a map. My unit was B17, second row, middle. The building had that echo that makes you whisper by instinct. Concrete floor. Overhead lights on timers. Every roll-up door, the same dull gray. I punched the gate code and stepped into air that smelled like dust and cold rubber. I passed A units, then B. People's lives behind metal. At B17, I set my box down and dug for the lock. There was already a lock on it. A bright brass one with a tag. "Welcome." I frowned and went back to the desk. The manager shrugged. "Sometimes maintenance pre-locks," he said. He handed me a cutter and a new lock in plastic. "Pop it," he said. I felt small doing it, like I was breaking into my own space. The brass lock gave with a loud clack. Inside the unit, dim light from the hallway, bare concrete, 1 shelf along the left wall. On the shelf, 4 banker's boxes with sticky notes. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I laughed out loud. Maintenance joke, I thought. I opened Monday. Inside was a TV remote, a receipt from my coffee shop, a copy of yesterday's mail with my name blacked out and forward, stamped across the window. I felt a drop of sweat even though it was cold. I opened Tuesday. A single Polaroid. Me in the elevator at my building, holding the same brown box I was holding now. The angle was from above, like someone had stuck a phone in the ceiling. The white strip under it had writing, 8/11. My stomach turned. I opened Wednesday. A blank VHS tape in a plastic sleeve. Label space empty. A post-it on top. Now. I stared at the little words until they stopped making sense. I told myself it was a prank by a bored worker. I set the tape on the shelf and looked around for a camera. The unit had none. The hall had one near the ceiling, pointed the wrong way. I stepped out to look down the row. Empty. A door shut 3 rows over, metal rattling down the loop like a whisper. I went back in and slid the door, almost shut, left a foot of light to feel less trapped. The light from the hall stretched a narrow wedge across the floor like a blade. I picked up the tape and held it like a bomb. There was a viewing room up front for old media. I didn't want to walk back past all that gray with the tape in my hand and my back to the open space. But I also didn't want to be in B17 anymore. I put the tape in my bag and rolled the door down. The latch clicked. I turned the lock the manager gave me, the cheap kind with a round key. It went through my fingers and hit the cement. The sound made me jump. I was trying to breathe like a normal person when I noticed the foam toe of a sneaker in the crack under the door of B16 next to me. Very still, pointed at me, not moving. I stood there watching a shoe, my ears filled with my own pulse. The shoe didn't twitch. I whispered, "Hey?" Because I am built wrong. Nothing. I took 2 steps back, bent fast, snapped my lock, and hurried down the row without looking again. At the office, the viewing room lights buzzed. The manager handed me a combo TV with a VCR built in like it was 1998. He didn't ask what I had. He didn't look at me. I shoved the tape in. The machine whirred. The image jumped. The camera looked down the B row from above, wide angle, grainy timestamp matching now, plus 5 minutes. The row looked empty except for me. Then I walked into frame 5 minutes early. I moved like me. I set a box down like me. I looked into the lens like I knew it was there and lifted my hand like I was shielding my eyes from sun. I watched myself step into B17 and roll the door down. The tape kept going. The hall stayed empty. The timestamp counted to match the clock on the wall above the copier. Footsteps crunched outside in the real hallway. The manager looked up. He frowned and went to the counter. I muted the TV. The steps came closer. The office door opened. A man in a hoodie nodded at the manager, kept his head down, walked past me to the vending area, bought nothing, stood with his back to the camera and his face to the dark glass of the soda machine. He stayed there long enough for the lights to click off in the far hallway. The manager hit the motion sensor. The lights burst back. The man turned his head a little too slow. He had that sleep-deprived look that softens a person into something else. He put a hand in his pocket and out again, and didn't buy anything. He left. The manager said, "You okay?" I nodded like a liar. The tape kept running. It showed me come back out of B17 with my bag, look up at the camera again, then freeze and turn my head toward B16. I watched myself, watching the foam toe of a sneaker. I saw myself whisper. I saw no answer. In real time, I said, "I'm done," and stood up. The manager said, "Leave the tape if you want." We got a box. I did not want to touch it again. I walked to the gate and out into cold that felt like clean water. I drove home the long way. At a red light, my phone dinged. A new email with no sender. Subject line, Wednesday. Only a single still image attached. It was the same shot from the VCR, B-row wide angle. Timestamp my clock plus 5. Only one change. The shoe under B16 wasn't a foam toe anymore. It was a bare foot, gray with dust, pressed to the line of light like it wanted the warmth. I forwarded the email to myself from another account because fear makes you create copies. It bounced. Address does not exist. I deleted it. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Same subject. A short video this time. The row. The wedge of light. The bare foot lifting and then lowering like a slow step in place, waiting for someone to roll their door up. I did not go back to the unit. I paid the bill anyway for 3 months because I did not want anyone else to open B17 with my name on it. In March, the manager called to say the lock on B17 was missing. "Did you move out?" he asked. I said yes. He said, "Okay. We'll clear it." I told him to keep the VHS box. He paused just long enough to make my mouth go dry. "What box?" he said. Story 3. The top photo in the bag was me from last night, asleep on my couch with the TV blue, taken from outside through the slat in my blinds. And under it, the next photo was my kitchen door with a check mark on the frame. And the note at the bottom said, "Tonight, Slider." It started the week after Thanksgiving when the community center asked for help sorting donations. Good people. Warm room, folding tables, paper signs for cans. Dry, personal, fragile. I like helping. I signed in, tied on a red apron, and stood at the barrel marked non-perishables. Bags came in from the cold all morning. We cut them open and sorted. No stories, just food. A few cute cards from kids. Around noon, a heavy black trash bag with no label arrived. The man who carried it didn't look at me. He set it down and left without a word. I said, "Sir?" To be polite. The door slid shut on wind. I cut the bag. Inside were 3 small grocery sacks, each tied with tape. I opened the first. No food. Polaroids. Dozens. Each had a time scribbled on the white strip. Each showed a house at night. Not farmhouses. Our streets. The dark set of the block behind mine. A porch I knew. A side path I had used. I felt the cold of outside inside me then. I opened the second sack. More photos. Closer now. Doors, windows, back gates. A date line under each. The last 2 nights, the last 3 hours, minutes apart, as if someone walked and watched and marked their route. I swallowed and opened the third sack. Only 4 photos. The first was my front door, my mailbox, the old chip in the paint I never fix. Timestamp 2:11 a.m. The next was my living room window, my couch. My head tipped back and my mouth open because I had fallen asleep under a blanket I keep telling myself to wash. The next was my kitchen door from outside. A greasy thumb had pressed on the glass so hard it left a round smear. The last photo was my sliding door in the bedroom. The white stick I wedged there for safety. A red check mark next to it, drawn with a Sharpie. Under the stack was a folded note. "Tonight, Slider." I felt my body leave and come back in a second. I did not yell. A woman next to me smiled and asked for an extra table for pasta boxes. I said, "Bathroom?" and walked to the hallway like a sleepwalker. I locked myself in a stall and tried to make my hands stop. I called 911 because there is a point where you stop caring if you sound crazy. I said, "Someone put photos of my house in a donation bag." The operator asked for the address. I gave it. She said a patrol could meet me at home. I said, "I'm at the center." She said, "Go with someone." "Do not go alone." I hung up and looked in the mirror. A bad version of me looked back. I told the director and showed her the bag. She went pale. She locked the back door and told the volunteers to take 5. We called the number on the flyer for the neighborhood officer. He came fast. He wore a heavy coat and had that tired eyes look. He set the photos on a new table like he was building a sad puzzle. He tapped the check mark with his finger. "He writes reminders," he said. He didn't say who he meant. He asked if anyone saw the man who dropped the bag. I said he wore a dark beanie and a coat that looked too big. "Gloves?" the officer asked. I nodded. He nodded too, like he expected that. He asked if I could leave now to meet a second unit at my place. I said yes. He said not to post anything, not to text a play-by-play. He may be watching for the reaction, he said. I hated the word he. I hated how easy it came out of his mouth. We drove in a little convoy, the center director in front, the officer behind, me in the middle, my eyes in the mirror, then on the road, then on the mirror. My block looked normal, which felt like a lie. The patrol car parked half a house down. The officer walked my yard with another cop while I stood on the sidewalk and held my breath. The slider stick was still in place. The window had no new marks. The side gate latch had a scratch too fresh to be old. They checked the cameras I have and the ones the city posts on the corner. The city cam blinked dumb and green like a pet that doesn't know its name. No useful angles. The officer asked if I had an AirTag or a tracker device in the house. I said no. He offered me one. Just for the week, he said, so if he touches anything, we get a ping. He tucked it in the slider rail. He showed me a small app that would buzz me if it moved. He told me to stay at a friend's house tonight. I tried to say yes and could not. I want to see, I said, and then wanted to take the words back. He looked at me for a long second, like he knew the mix of fear and stubborn that keeps people rooted to the floor. He said, "Then we sit." We did. 2 plain cars parked on my street at sunset. One by the alley, one where a van could not sneak. I made coffee. I did not drink. I sat on the floor behind the couch because it felt safer. The app stayed quiet. At 12:41 a.m., my phone buzzed with an alert that said, "Unknown item moving with you." I stared like a person in a play. The officer sitting on my stairs said, "Show me." He tapped. He said, "That's not ours." We followed the signal as it moved from the front walk to the side path and then stopped at the slider like a heartbeat. The stick in the rail jiggled a hair. A fingernail sound on glass followed. The officer moved like a shadow, silent and fast. He mouthed, "Stay," and slipped to the yard. I crouched with my eyes on the slider as if my looking mattered. The glass whispered again. The stick bumped. It held. A small click came from the lock. Not a real turn. A test. Then a soft tap on the pane, like the tip of a key. The yard went bright white. A flashlight. A shout. Running feet. The sound of a shoe losing on wet grass. Then quiet and radios and my own heart. The officer came back alone a minute later, breathing hard. "He dropped something," he said. We went outside. In the grass by the fence lay a black bag with drawstrings. Inside were more photos. Houses on my block. Lists with boxes checked. Tonight's date with my number under it. And a silver key on a ring with a tiny sticker that said, "Slider." The officer looked at me and then at the sliding door, and then at the photos and said, very calm, "You are not going to sleep here tonight?" I didn't argue. I packed a bag while he and the other cop walked the perimeter again. I slept on my sister's couch with the lights on. In the morning, the center texted the volunteers that the drive would move indoors for now. No more barrels at the door. People said, "Good idea," with thumbs up and heart emojis. The officer called at noon. "We ran the bag," he said. "No prints we can use." He paused, but the tracker pinged at 3:09 a.m., 2 blocks over, then died by the creek. I said nothing. He said, "Do not walk alone after dark for a while." I still sort food on Saturdays. I open nice bags with little notes from kids and jars of peanut butter and boxes of pasta that people bought with love. Once in a while, a black bag shows up with no label. I let someone else cut those now. I keep my slider stick in place with a screw through the wood, ugly and sure. The photos from the first bag I did not keep. But sometimes, late, when the TV turns blue and my eyes close by accident, I feel air move at the edge of the blinds like a small breath, and I say my own name out loud just to remind the room it belongs to me.